It's April 2025 and you are listening to the Deepdale Podcast, our North Norfolk magazine programme. I'm Jason. Thank you for joining us. Spring is well and truly springing. The hares are dancing in the fields. The huge skies of the North Norfolk Coast are as blue could be. And this has to be one of the most fabulous times of the year to visit this beautiful part of the world. This month we talk yoga and well-being with Emilie, looking forward to her wild yoga garden at Deepdale this summer. And then I'm joined by the Wilswood Buoys, Josh and Joe, who are playing a gig at Deepdale on Saturday the 26th of April. We chat about their music, inspiration and their first visit to Deepdale. Really hope you enjoy this month's listen. If you do, then please leave a review on your favourite podcast app or directory and let your friends and family know about our little slice of the beautiful North Norfolk coast. There are loads of other episodes available from the past 5 years, learning about the local wildlife with Richard Powell and Steve Rowland. Dr. David Waterhouse explains the deep history coast, and David and Rachel from Mood Gazer chat about brewing and names of the hare. Have a look through our back catalogue and we are sure you'll find episodes that will interest you. Enjoy the listen and we'll see you on the other side.
Skies all open wide, geese go high and over. Oh, now you're a beachcomber, fistful of sandfire, sea, lavender, see you next year.
I am chatting to somebody who is well known to many festival goers at Deepdale, Emilie, who is running the Wild Yoga Garden at Dalegate Market on the Orchard, where she has also run yoga at the festival. She's got a whole lot of events, and I just thought it would be really nice to chat to her about what Wild Yoga Garden is, what Wild Yoga Norfolk sort of offers, and a bit more about Emilie herself. How did she end up getting people to stretch for a living, basically?
How did I get people to stretch for a living? I don't know. It's a huge question, but no, I suppose. I was the classic kind of cliche that I think I think it was 2016. I was doing lots of yoga in London, living in London, Norfolk girl, but lived in London. And then, like most people, I think London wears you out, doesn't it? So you need something to sort of try and stay sane. Went to, I don't know, I can't even remember the first yoga class I went to, but I went to a fair few. And then I quit my job. I actually worked as an events manager. This was like a long time ago in London for the Telegraph. Quit my job, much to my parents' dismay. They were like, "What? It's a good job. It's really good on your CV." And I was like, "No, I don't want to do that." And then I went and worked in a smoothie bar, which was attached to a yoga studio. And then that was my baptism of fire, basically, into yoga. And I just got the opportunity to practice with lots of great teachers and do classes most days. And then, and then where I was the classic cliche is that me and a friend were like, let's go traveling, let's go to India. And then we were like, well, should we do some yoga whilst we're there? And we're like, yeah, that would be really fun. And then we just so happened to find this place in South Goa, which also did teach trainings. And we both like very kind of whimsically were like, should we get teacher training? Like, yeah, why not? It wasn't particularly intentional, but yeah, that's how it started. Well, that's how I kind of went on to kind of begin, teaching yoga, I suppose. But yeah, it was a funny one. And then I came back to Norfolk. I left London, came back to Norfolk, and I was kind of not sure what I was going to do. And I was practicing with another teacher, and she was leaving to go to Cornwall. And she said, "Oh, do you want to take on my class? I know you've done your teacher training." And I said, "No, no, 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 no. don't think I could do that. And then she said, well, why don't you just try? And that was that. And that was really how it all sort of started.
What can people expect from the Wild Yoga Garden? What is it are you bringing to Deepdale really with that whole kind of setup?
I mean, obviously, yoga is kind of the central piece, I guess you could say. But the thing with this part of Norfolk, which obviously you know very well, is we've got the kind of access to the salt marsh and to the creeks and to the swimming and just like this incredible kind of feast of wildlife and nature at your fingertips. And I think, well, since I moved back here, it's something that I have just loved and has just been such a big part of my life in terms of kind of paddleboarding and just kind of getting out and making the most of being up here. I find it surprising when people kind of say, "Oh, what you can go paddleboarding up in Deepdale and Brancaster." Some people don't. They live here all year round, yet they don't kind of get the best of it. Do you know what I mean? They don't make the most of it. The point of the Wild Yoga Garden is kind of the location of it gives us access to all of that, and so a lot of the offerings are centered around kind of connecting you with your body. So obviously through yoga practice, meditation, movement, but then going beyond that and actually getting out in nature and being able to kind of immerse in a beautiful environment, which, well, we love, don't we?
We do. Yes, they're beautiful.
We
It
do.
is, yeah, it is a stunningly beautiful part of the world. And it always seems madness to sort of spend too much time indoors really when we can get outside and see the place a lot more. And so
Yeah.
anything that drags people out into the wider countryside, I think is always a fabulous thing.
Well, I think also as well, I mean, I don't know about you, but I think COVID was quite a funny sort of time because I think it really sort of, I don't know, I think obviously with the restrictions and things like that, being able to go out and you could still paddleboard because it was socially distant, you could still be in nature and swim. And I don't know if, what it's like was like for you, because I know different people had different experiences, but I think that kind of really, I don't know, shined light on like how much richness we have if you are willing to put on your swimsuit, get a bit muddy, and just go and be a child and kind of get out there and make the most of it. Because COVID was mental in many ways. Yet I it also feels like now looking back, it was a time when like quite a lot of, I don't know, quite a lot of connections and sort of, or maybe reconnections were made, if that makes sense. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Or just realizing what priorities were, or that balance of, our mental health being such an important aspect of our lives. And so, yeah, we're very lucky to live where we live, really.
And the nice thing is that people can come and join you and do some of this stuff. It would be lovely to kind of run through the events and just explain to people a bit more about what there is. You're doing your Soulful Sundays, aren't you, through sort of June and July and into August?
Yeah, so basically, it's kind of it's a bit of a pop up, basically. So it's over the summer months when we've got that good weather. There's Soulful Sundays, which is yoga in the morning and then followed by sauna. And that's something that people can come just to the movement side, the yoga side of it, or come just to the sauna. But it's lovely because I think often these spaces all that we come to, it's not just about kind of turning up and practicing yoga. It's nice to actually be able to have a chat and meet people. And certainly with the sauna, it is lovely just to sit out on a Sunday when most of us, well, it's a day of rest, isn't it? And especially if you're starting your day with a bit of movement, a bit of a sweat, chat to some new people. It's just nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Community. I think community is the biggest driver of kind of all of these offerings. It's not just turn up, come and stretch. It's turn up, come, do something nice, maybe like do something a bit out of your comfort zone, but also meet some like-minded people and kind of, get that immersion.
They start on the 22nd of June.
There's loads of events and different things to join. I mean, a lot of it is, as I said, centered around kind of being able to go and swim in the creeks at high tide. So we did a sort of similar version of it last year, but it's kind of a new version of it this year is Selkie's Call. And that comes from, there's like the folklore of the Selkie, which is the half woman, half seal, which I quite like to think of myself as a half seal. And so Selkie's Call is basically we gather in the evening, we move together, we breathe together, and then we go out at sunset, which also so happens to be when the high tide is, and we get to swim in the creeks. And it's, I mean, obviously Golden Hour is like beautiful, but when you're swimming in the creeks and it's that lovely kind of metallic-y, beautiful, I mean, it's incredible. And then we come back and we have a sauna. And then what we were doing last year, which was quite fun, which I always thought was a good bit of balance, is that we'd then go to the pub afterwards and maybe get a pizza.
Excellent.
So it's nice mix of like
Yeah,
pub,
do some healthy stuff, and then the thoroughly enjoyable soul
go and
stuff.
have a nice glass of wine.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we
All
like
right,
that. That sounds good. Full moon ritual.
the moon howlers. No, that's a really nice one as well. It's all the components are kind of similar in terms of like we'll always move, we'll always breathe. But with the full moon ritual, obviously we're gathering on the full moon. We have the sauna going, and with those particular kind of monthly offerings in June and all this, we focus a bit more on a kind of slower, gentler pace of practice. Because I don't know about you, but most of the time, the summer for a lot of people can be quite full on, you know? It tends to be a time of year where we do kind of go at it, we kind of the long days. And so the full moon rituals is actually more of a kind of, I would say, like a decompressing practice. So very gentle, very slow, very intentional. And it's just, I guess, a little way of us kind of marking as we go through the summer. You know, sometimes it's almost like you need those little pit stops just to sort of anchor in and be like, where have you been? What's going on right now? And what's coming up ahead? And
Yeah.
just being able to orientate yourself. And obviously, you know, where we are in Manchester, the tides and the moon have such, you know, they're so important. We know that when we have a full moon, a couple of days later, you're going to see a really big tide. And so it's not, that's always something that's really fascinated me, you know, being able to kind of see a changing landscape in relationship to these cycles of the moon or the seasons, you know, and I don't know, you get to really see that up here with the water, and it's really special.
I'm always fascinated by people who don't understand tides, because it just is something that when you grow up where we grew up, you kind of, it's just is second nature, isn't it? It's just like life revolves around the tides
Yeah.
in so many ways, and you kind of even if it's just simple things like when can you get to the beach by car, and things like that.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's always amused me when you kind of bump into people and they just have no idea about tides at all, and you just think, oh, I suppose it's probably the same as things that I know nothing about at all, that you just grew up with in different places. So it's yeah, it's funny, really. It's an interesting one, but very, very much a part of our day-to-day life, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and I love how like you do get that kind of flurry on the coast as well. Like when you know it's like a really nice light wind morning and it's like 6 a.m. and suddenly you're like driving down the coast road and you can see the people and like people have got their paddleboards on their roof, people have got their kayaks, you've got people towing their sailing boats, and there's this like this, you know that probably the majority of the people are still in bed, yet you're there just like the tide waits for no man. Like you've got to get salty and I don't know, I think there's something so kind of rich about when you have, because sometimes I mean I did paddleboarding up here for a long time, for about 5 seasons, 5 summers, and some of the mornings or evenings or whatever it is that you're paddling, like you sometimes would get just the most insane mornings where like the water is still, the sky, the clouds, it's so picturesque. But if you don't get up for it, you don't get it,
Gone. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And in the
completely.
summer, it feels like you have to make the most. Do you know what I mean? You have to, I don't know, when you have that energy, go, get up, rest later.
I don't think I've ever regretted getting up early to be on the water. Like, sometimes when the alarm goes off, you just think, really? But
Yeah.
actually, when you're out there, it's worth all of that
There's no better
faff and
feeling.
hassle. Yeah.
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 You know, we always say I'm a part of like a women's swimming group, and we always say you never regret a swim, and you don't. You never regret it. You always feel like you've done something that day, or like you just like you're nourished. It's brilliant. Yeah, I think that's the thing about this part of the world. It's sort of, I always sometimes like in the winter, because we're only just out of the winter, really, aren't we? Sometimes the winter up here can be quite bleak, and it can be slow, and like there's no one around, and it can feel really sort of, I don't know, a bit stagnant and bleak. But then you go and maybe you go for a paddle, you go for a swim, and you just get to be in this incredible environment, and then you're just like, aha, this is why I live here. This is why it makes sense. This is the spot, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me a bit more about the women's day retreat, the Tide and Wild.
Tide and Wild. Tide and Wild. So Tide and Wild is something that I've been doing for about 4 years now, maybe even 5 years actually. I think this will be its fifth year, but it's basically a women's rewilding day. And I guess rewilding is like it's a bit of a buzzword, isn't it? Everyone's rewilding everything now, it's become very pop. But I guess like the essence of like where I kind of when I kind of was creating this idea or this experience, it wasn't so much about necessarily like going and rewilding nature in the sense of like, I don't know, planting seeds or whatever. It was more about this idea of kind of rewilding yourself and going back to like the essence of you beyond kind of, I think like we can all acknowledge that as you get older, we have responsibilities, we start to wear certain hats, whether we're mother, father, all these things that like life demands of us, which is just how it goes. And it's almost like if you kind of strip back those things and you kind of go to like your happy place, whatever that is, whether it's, I don't know, sailing or by the sea or painting or like, I don't know what it could be. It's different for everyone, right? When you go back to like the place where you're really at your most kind of joy, often I think people think back to their childhood and they think back to, I don't know, playing in the mud or building sandcastles or doing something. It's often in nature. And I guess with the Tide and Wild, it's very much about going into nature and being able to kind of like go back to yourself, go back to that like person that was, you know, able just to like slide around in the mud. When you see the kids up here and like I remember when we were kids, we would like go to Blakeney and we'd dig mud trenches and then you'd shove the water up and you'd make a mudslide. I remember we once lost our dog in the mud. We hadn't lost our dog. We just didn't recognize our dog because it was black and white. It was just fully covered in mud. And just like, I don't know, I think those days for me, I think they kind of take me back to like, a joyous kind of version of myself. And I guess that's what the essence of Tide and Wild is about. It's about going into nature. We go for a long, long walk across the salt marsh. We're climbing down into the creek, scrabbling it out. We're getting into the mud. We do a little bit of foraging. So obviously there's lots of sunflower that grows up here and sea lavender. And it's being able to just to kind of stretch that muscle that often, in the confines of day-to-day life, which, life can be mundane and it can be ordinary, it can be a bit dull. Being able to kind of do something so out of the day-to-day that it kind of, I guess it just sort of brings you maybe back to that joyous version of yourself as a kid, or certainly that's what it is for me,
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes it. I always remember a friend of my mother's, who was very glamorous. She always used to say she didn't use any products; she just used Branxton mud, and that
Love
was
that.
that's what made her skin so lovely. It
Yeah,
was
I
very,
love
yeah.
that.
She was obsessed with the idea of. I think it was just a very good excuse for going getting incredibly muddy on a regular basis. But
Yeah,
yeah, there you go.
I love that. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 summers ago. There's a place at home, which I will tell you, but I won't tell on this podcast because it's secret, top secret. Basically, there's like a bed out there at low tide, which has got this most incredible bright blue clay, like actually actual clay, like doesn't smell like Brancaster mud, which let's face it, it's pretty spicy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I collected loads of that, and so for the last few years, when we do Tide and Wild, I have a big jar of this blue clay, and everybody coats themselves in it, and then they go into the sauna, and it's just glorious. And then there's one other day retreat which I'm doing with Rosie Newport, which do you know Rosie,
My
don't
lovely
you?
friend Rosie, yes.
We love Rosie. Rosie is like full Labrador energy, I always think. She's like chomping at the bit, ready.
Oh,
She's
I
a
don't know. I think she's more of a cocker spaniel, like just never stops, just
yeah,
constantly. Whereas
more,
I'm
more.
more like a Labrador. I'm quite happy to run around for a while, but I quite like just going to sleep. Whereas Rosie just never runs out of energy. She's amazing.
I think I'm a mix. I'm a cockador. I'm a bit of a Labrador and a cocker spaniel. But we're doing a really lovely collaborative day called Naiad, and that is where we're actually gonna walk out at low tide through the marsh, and then we're gonna hitch a lift on the tide, and we get to basically swim back in on the incoming tide. So it's
Wow.
quite, I mean, I always, even like when you see the kind of the change of the landscape, and particularly if you're walking out in it and you're on the ground, and then as the water comes in and you realize kind of how much force, and I don't know, I think it's so amazing and such a sort of lovely thing to be able to do. So yeah, that's basically what we're going to be doing the Naiad, which is I'm very very excited about that. And then obviously there'll be yoga, it's going to be food, we'll have the sauna going.
There's nothing better than coming in with the tide, swimming back in with the tide. It's fabulous. I love it.
Well, this is the thing.
Kids,
Some
we used to
people
go
don't
out
know
and
you
play in
can
the
do
hole
it.
for the whole day, and then as the tide came in, we would just float back. It was
Yeah,
just fantastic. The days where when our parents just trusted us to know what the tides were doing and be safe. It's just
yeah.
absolutely
And
wonderful.
I think that's the thing as well. Like when you live here, you sort of you build that relationship with the water, where you know which depending on what the reading is, like which creeks are you can paddle down or swim down because you know how much water is going to be in them, and you do get this lovely sort of, I guess, like relationship with the landscape. And I think there's something really, I don't know, there's something so kind of rich in that, and to know the nuances of it, and also then I think being able to come and do it in a way where you have got someone to guide, or someone who knows this area, because for a lot of people I think sometimes it can be off-putting, oh, I don't understand this, I don't understand that. So it's and I think that's the thing as well. I mean, you and I both know we've seen many cars that have been flooded. There's always one every year.
One of
you
the
know
future podcasts, I'm going to be having conversations with the RNLI, and and the number of people who manage to get themselves stuck because they're just not aware of the tide. And it seems, as you say, like the landscape changes so much. You stand on Branxton Beach and you look out and you think, well, yeah, I can walk to the wreck, no problem at all. And then if you don't know kind of
yeah.
the fact that this massive tide is going to come in round you and cut you off, you just,
Mm.
it just doesn't seem possible. And what we always say to people who come to Deepdale and ask about walking onto the marsh or walking to Scott Head Island is, look, it's absolutely possible, but you need to be very aware of the tides. You have to be prepared to get very muddy. If you
Yeah.
take the wrong route onto the island, you have to be prepared to cope with horseflies. And lastly, you have to be very conscious of things like springs, because you can trip and hurt yourself really badly, and then you can be quite a distance out, hard to rescue from anywhere. So I think if you know those things, and actually going out with somebody who knows what they're doing and can point out to you where they are and just takes it in their stride, actually helps people kind of realize kind of what's there, and then they can begin to enjoy that space more themselves.
I think when you get to see how the tide move, like immense amounts of water, like it's just insane. I think that there's something, I don't know, I'm fascinated by it. I think that, well, I think loads of women have kind of rekindled this relationship to the sea or to the water, or to, maybe it's just like being able to just throw yourself in and scream and howl and kind of blow off some steam, which I is definitely, I think for me, as someone who likes to swim all year round, like I definitely get like an itchy feet type thing where I'm like, I need to get in the water, just to sort of reset the system.
Beloved body, yoga, sauna, and brunch.
Yes, okay. So we've got the brunch, which is it's basically I mean it says what it is on the tin.
Food and yoga, basically.
It's brunch, it's food, it's yoga, and it's sauna. That's going to be a really lovely morning. I always do a kind of yoga brunch in the summer. It's just a really lovely way to kind of get people together. And then the other thing, which I'm actually really excited about, I'm doing a collaboration with a friend of mine who she's a floral artist. So basically, she specializes in dried flower arrangements. Okay. I don't know if this is your kind of thing, Jason, but stay with me.
Not my top hobby, but I can understand the attraction of it.
Appreciation. Yeah.
Yes.
Her business is called Triple, and she does obviously like weddings and workshops and things like that. But what we're actually going to be doing on the day is making one of these kind of dried floral orbs, which you can hang. Sometimes they have them at like festivals. Jess, she's going to be leading the kind of creative side of the day. There'll be an element where we actually go out for a nice long walk along the marsh. And that's also just to kind of take inspiration. She's going to be bringing lots of kind of coastal inspired grasses, kind of all of the lovely things that we see in this area. And then we will be assembling and making this all together. So that's going to be a lovely kind of quite a creative day. So if you're someone who likes to do things with their hands or have itchy fingers, then yeah, that's going to be something quite special.
Well, it's going to be really, really lovely to have you with us for the summer. I think it's going to be fantastic and a really lovely addition to Deepdale. All the events are listed on both deepdalecamping.co.uk and on dalegatemarket.co.uk. And you'll find the Wild Yoga Garden page on Dalegate Market. You just follow the links.
My website is wildyoganorfolk.com.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. I'm really looking forward to you joining us. It's going to be great. A really lovely addition to what we're doing. So I'm chatting to two gentlemen from Mersey Island, which is down on the Essex coast, and they are a duo called the Wilswood Buoys. Really nice to have Joe and Josh with us. Fantastic to have you with us, guys. Thank you so much. They are playing a gig in the Brick Barn at Deepdale on the 26th of April, and I thought it'd be really nice to chat to them and find out a bit more about the Wilswood Buoys because they've never been to Deepdale before, and this is first time for us hosting them, first time for them playing at Deepdale. They have become a very firm favourite on some of the UK festival scene. I hear you've played a few festivals and you're being in demand. So how did you two meet? How did the Wilswood Buoys come about?
Well, myself and Joe have known each other for years, but not really known each other, if you get what I mean. Mersey's quite a close-knit community, so everyone kind of knows everyone. But it was a random night in a pub on the island. We both were at the bar at the same time, and that was kind of where it all kicked off, and we just end up getting pretty pissed together, to be honest. And then ended up doing a karaoke and making a fool of ourselves. I think we done Limp Bizkit, didn't we, Joe?
Yeah, and we were so terrible we got told to stop. we did, all I knew was it was the chorus. Didn't know the rest of it. I
mean, I love Limp Bizkit, so I was going for it. But yeah, just kind of all the joking aside, we did actually have a serious chat that night before we got a bit too drunk, and that was like we should meet up and maybe just have a little jam and see what happens. And we did exactly that. And yeah, we were only going to do covers to start with, and then Joe ended up just walking out the room. So I was playing around with this random tuning at the time. And I just always remember Joe just going, "Hold on a minute, mate." And he walked out the room. Next thing he's come back in with like pen and paper and just jotted down some lyrics. And that was it. We'd written like nearly a full song just in like, we were learning a cover, and then that happened. So it was kind of like I'd always written music on my own before that, and never really had. I don't know. I get a bit funny about writing music with people, but when Joe done that, it was kind of like, oh, there's something here. Like straight away, you could just tell. It was, and that kind of kicked off everything, didn't it, Joe?
Yeah, well, I had sort of half written some lyrics to something, and it sounded very similar to what we were playing. And then I think we just ended up using that tune in, and we were just like, "Oh, that works. This works. This is pretty cool." It's just like something just clicked a bit because we were just. I feel like we were both almost met each other at the perfect time because we were both kind of not gonna give music up necessarily, but just a bit like, oh, I don't know what to do with it.
I mean, I'd fully given up playing guitar if I'm perfectly honest. I just I'd kind of had enough of it, and I was quite. When me and Joe first started jamming, I was like heavily drumming a lot, and I was doing stuff with a DJ at the time. We would go and do like gigs, and I'd drum along to his mixes, and that was kind of like where my focus was at. And then yeah, that night completely changed my musical world, that's for sure. It just made it like maybe had a new love for my guitar again, which I was craving, but at the same time I really didn't want to play my guitar. So that definitely kick-started it all. Which I'm very, very happy about because I always wanted to I love playing my guitar anyway, but yeah, just don't know why, just kind of stopped playing.
Yeah.
So how long ago was that? When did you guys sort of first start getting together?
Was that about
I
was
think,
it 2018, would you say?
yeah, I think, yeah, it was. Yeah,
But we only with so we'd written that song, and then we didn't write another song for a year. It was just like
we
that
just,
happened, and then we just didn't really. It was kind of put on the back burner, I think, a little bit. We were just enjoying hanging out, and like I think like we'd always mess about on the guitars. Don't get me wrong, but we just didn't. We hadn't really sat down and gone, we should probably write another song. We should try and write another song. And then when we did, they started just falling out.
yeah. I just remember listening to that song going, that's just amazing.
That's really cool.
Obsessed by this song for ages. I just listened to the song again, mate. Just thought I'd let you know.
And how does the process work for you two? Does like one of you mainly concentrate on the rhythm and the other one concentrate on the words, or is it a kind of a real mixture?
I
Go on, Joe.
don't think like we don't really have a format to it. Like Josh will come to me with like fully written songs and everything laid out, and then I'll just put my bit to it, and then I'd come to Josh with like fully written as well.
Yeah,
We would just figure it out from there. Really, we just like
I think
write a lot of lyrics, then they don't necessarily always become the song that originally a bit like. If that makes sense. And it just becomes another beast in itself. But then usually it just everything's so much better. I think once we've both had our say on it, you condense it down and like really look into it, and it just sounds better once we've both had our say and both set it out how we like, sort of thing.
I think there are times where we just sit down as well, and there'll be we'll write lyrics together while sitting there trying to like finish a song off, or yeah, it's completely random. Like we've written songs. What was it? Home on our album was a song that we wrote.
Really, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
telepathically. Yeah, it was. Joe had written this riff, and I'd like just come up with this nice little chord progression. And then when I was away over the weekend, and when I come back, I was like, oh, made up this really nice chord progression. And Joe was like, oh, I've done this riff, and then he played it, and I played my chords, and they were perfect. They just fit perfectly together, and it was it's always like we knew. So yeah, it's completely random how we write songs. It doesn't. I think the main thing and the main focus of it all is never to force anything, because it's not even worth trying to force a song. I don't think you end up just making rubbish if you do.
it just takes the heart out of it. If not, doesn't it? You just think, oh, why are we bothering? And then you just think, oh, I just want to give up. I can't be bothered. You lose the inspiration and the drive for it if you just keep trying to force it. But
yeah, you're putting a unnecessary pressure on yourself by doing that as well.
we're pretty good. We can let things lie and come back to them. We don't. If something's not working, we won't just keep going on at it. We'll just let it breathe for a bit.
And when did you start playing kind of proper gigs? Is there a kind of a good folk scene in the Mersey area?
Not really, no. Mersey's quite. I mean, they're trying. The music scene in Mersey is trying. Like for sure, there's a festival that happens here every year, and this year they're putting on a live band stage for it. So it should be hopefully quite good. It's usually quite a good turnout, but I'm not. It's more of a dance scene. So this is going to be a whole new thing, putting a live band stage in there. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Colchester's like our local sort of music scene of where we'd go to play it, like any open mics or whatever. But yeah,
Safe at the open mics. Really, we had a load of songs, and we hadn't really ever played live before lockdown, because we only had that one song for like a year. But then when we did, we'd had all these songs written like during lockdown. So then we just started going to the open mics whenever we could. We did start doing that beforehand in Colchester, but then we started
getting a load of gigs booked in, didn't we? We had a calendar of like all of the gigs that we had booked in, and then obviously lockdown just hit, and we ended up just ripping that off the wall and throwing it in the bin. That was that, and that kind of put the brakes on everything. But we were quite lucky at the time because we'd just moved in together, so it was like almost like a blessing in disguise, lockdown for us, because it just meant that we could really focus on the social media side of things, because we hadn't really done that, and like actually just we ended up writing our whole album during lockdown. So it was like it gave us loads of time just to think about stuff, and it was a bit of a weird time for everyone in the world anyway. So I think, yeah, you can really sort of hear that in the album as well if you listen through on it. There's parts of like anxiety and everything in there. So
oh yeah, definitely. There's something for everyone on that album, I think.
Again. So how many albums are you in now? Are you just the one album?
Just the one, yeah.
And is there a second one kind of in the ether, or is it? Are you enjoying playing the first album and not worrying about the second one at the moment?
We've started recording the second album. We've been down to Devon to this. I don't know if you know the Levelers, but we're recording with their producer.
Oh wow!
And we've done majority of it's recorded now, but we've just had to lay the drums down because we've now got a drummer on board. But yeah, we've been recording up pretty much there with it now. Just got a couple more songs to go, and we're going to be back down there next week. But we're pretty excited for it because with this album's been out for just over 2 years now, so that's kind of time for the second one.
We're pretty lucky with that album as well because we got to record that with Frank Turner. Yeah, we were lucky enough to be able to get in the studio with him. That was all sort of around the lockdown period as well. So he had a bit of free time. So yeah, like I say, lockdown, although it was pretty shite for everyone, there was a bit of light in there for us, which was nice.
Yeah, I think a few creatives, you feel bad about saying actually it was quite a good, productive time because, an awful lot of people had a pretty hellish time. But I think there's some really fabulous arts that got created during that time. Because
so much negativity going around it all, and I understand that. Yeah, it was awful for some people, but I'm not ashamed to say that I actually thoroughly enjoyed lockdown, and it gave us a lot of time to focus on the stuff that we wanted to focus on. But we were like a couple of the lucky ones, really,
Yeah. Joe, you're a joiner, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then and Josh, you catch oysters, is that right?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, you're coming up to another oyster producing place when you come up to play at Deepdale. Get a lot of
Nice.
oysters out Bragster Harbour. And mussels are big up here as well. But sadly, they won't be in season when you're here. So what can people expect when they come to see you at Deepdale? You know, are you going to have your drummer with you then, or is it just going to be the two of you?
Yeah, I think he should be there.
Because it's all so new with him, we're still sort of like figuring out which shows he's playing and which he's not. He's doing a lot of other projects on the side as well. So I originally taught our drummer, Alfie, his name is, and then I taught him for a good few years, and then after that I was kind of like, you know, I'm self-taught, so there's only so much I can teach him. And then his parents sort of pushed him into music college and stuff, and then he's done a lot of recording and other bits with other bands. And he's got to the point now where he's always sort of said to me whenever I've seen him, he's like, "Can I come and play with the Wilswood Buoys?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you can, you will, but just when the time's right." And obviously now the time's right. So it's really nice to have him starting to play shows with us, and it's made a hell of a difference on the live sets that we've done as well, because we've never experienced that before, and it just kind of fills the gaps really nicely as well. It just adds a new dynamic to the songs, gives them a little bit more energy. I mean, we're pretty energetic anyway, and we're not shy of playing just the two of us. Obviously, we've always done that, and we're happy to do that still. But it is nice having a drummer behind you. It just gives you that extra bit of force.
Power.
Yeah.
So if they want to know more about you guys, what's your website? Where can they find you?
If you go to www.wilswoodbuoys.com, you can find all our information on there. There's links to all the socials on there. We've got Instagram, Facebook, X. Yeah, all our gig listings on there. You can get tickets for Deepdale on there. There's loads on there. They can find out loads about us on there, bios and stuff and photos. And yeah, just go and follow us, give us a look, and yeah, get a ticket as well for Deepdale. Because
a ticket, absolutely good. Well said. But if I was to play a sample, what would you choose?
Personally, say probably "Must Be Love."
Yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah,
like full of energy.
Brilliant. Must Be Love. It will be then. That's fantastic. Well, we are really, really looking forward to seeing you guys. Really looking forward to hosting you on the 26th of April. I really hope you enjoy your first visit to Deepdale. I'm sure it'll be the first of many. Have you got many gigs between now and the end of April? Is it a busy schedule?
Haven't we got like nine sets in a week in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, we're away here down in Goodwood at the racecourse, playing a load of gigs there, playing a Frank Turner after show party in Cambridge, and the day before, I think we're on a panel at one of the universities in Cambridge, just answering questions and stuff on music.
When do you finish recording the second album?
Hopefully I'd like to say it would be finished this week coming, but the reality is it's probably not going to be finished because we've still not finished recording the drums yet. But the main goal for next week back in the studio is just to get the two songs that we didn't get round to recording last time we were there done, and also just sort of like adding bass guitar into like songs and just filling out the songs a bit more, getting a bit more production behind them, making everything sound crisp. And then it'll be a case of just slapping the drums over everything and getting that all nicely lined up. So hopefully in the not so distant future, the album will be complete and we can start releasing some singles from it. We're proper excited about it because it's just, yeah, it's been a while since we released anything, and we're both, I think, pretty happy with this outcome of the next album. So it sounded really good.
Yeah, something different to the first one completely. I feel like the songs are so much more mature, and we've like grown with it. You know what I mean? Like we've got a lot more to say.
Well, we really look forward to hearing the new material. Yeah, I hope the rest of the recording goes well and your massive number of gigs in a week goes very successfully and you enjoy that. And we really look forward to seeing you on the 26th of April. Thank you so much for chatting to me on here. That's really kind of you.
Thanks, mate. Cheers for having us.
Take care.
The song's called Must Be Love. everyone in here, join me there. There's a weekend that we would share. That's a song. Look at the money, always back home then see money. That's your safe place in this world. I was high when I saw you know you run away. All your troubles that you ignore, but that's struggles. As I move forward, you move back. It's time to get my life on track. Spending here, spending there. You waste your money, you just don't care to fall a hat. Well, it's got off you, but you can't just fall in love. I don't know what this feeling is. You need my skin. I don't know, and I don't know what this feeling is. You need my skin. I don't know. Trying to pictures with me, hey, it's actually sweet. You don't care. Call up the number, think of your voice. Saturday song, another one choice. They get voice, look at my text, I'm another one choice. Just not these all the shit I see. Tell me, what's wrong with through? Getting out of you, take my time, bring it soon. Have a lot of this bliss. While I fizz, every kiss, every night, every call to stay with me. Don't make me go, I stay with me. You should, you must be, and I don't know.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Deepdale Podcast. Hope you'll have a chance to join us for the Wilswood Buoys gig on Saturday the 26th of April, or for one of the Wild Yoga Garden events through the summer. You can get more information about all the live music gigs we are hosting at Deepdale by visiting the website deepdalemusic.co.uk. Gigs include Jacob and Drinkwater on the 17th of May, Iona Lane on the 21st of June, the Shackleton Trio and Adam Clark on the 19th of July, the Branxter Staith Sea Shanty Festival on the 12th to the 14th of September, the India Electric Company and Christina Alden and Alex Patterson on the 27th of September, and the Deepdale Christmas Party featuring the annual visit by Man the Lifeboats on the 20th of December. You can also find information on the 3 visits to Deepdale by the Pantaloons, who will be performing their very funny takes on classic tales this summer. Sense and Sensibility on the 22nd of May, Robin Hood on the 7th of August, and Hamlet on the 23rd of August. You can find a whole host of other events of all shapes and sizes, including exhibitions, theatre, workshops, walks, conservation, well-being, markets, street food, beach cleans, cooking and so much more on our website, deepdalecamping.co.uk. Just click on events and scroll through our ever-growing collection of superb reasons to visit this beautiful part of the world. We hope you'll join us for the next episode of the Deepdale Podcast. In the meantime, you're welcome to listen back to any of the previous episodes in the last 5 years. All should be available on any good podcast app or directory, or through our website deepdalepodcast.co.uk. If you have any suggestions for this podcast, then please email podcast@deepdalepodcast.co.uk. We'd love your soundscapes, your suggestions, and even your criticism if that's how you feel. But we hope you enjoy a little slice of the beautiful North Norfolk Coast, and that you'll hear us again and you'll leave great reviews on your favourite podcast app or directory. Thanks for listening, keep well and enjoy the rest of the spring.
Skies all open wide, geese go high and over. Oh, now you're a beachcomber, a fistful of sandfire, sea, lavender, sea.